Like Scott Frost said after the game, it's going to happen. Man, it seemed like it was going to happen on Saturday night. Nebraska Cornhuskers live here at the Voice of College Football for the next 60 minutes. Lock it in. And you know what? Go grab some folks, too. Not only you enjoy the show, but grab some other college football fans to talk Nebraska football for the next hour. And this is the guy that makes it happen, Greg Peterson from Husker Online. Hey, Greg.
Hey, Mark.
Oh, man. That was a heck of a game, which
really
we all expected that. That's what you were looking forward to. I was as well. The game, we talked about all the history behind the two schools with, the two head coaches having very similar places in their schools, legacy and tradition. And we talked about, as you mentioned, just 2 of 9 programs with 900 wins and all the pomp and circumstance of the event and the spectacle. But then the game delivered.
Yeah, it was really a special experience, and I mentioned to some of my colleagues next to me right after the game kicked off that actually the goosebumps came back to me during the tunnel walk and the Nebraska tunnel walk and everything. Those goosebumps had always happened for many, many years until it kind of stopped last year at some point. But yeah, they came back, and it was an atmosphere that that's just a classic college football evening. And Nebraska had 50 some prospects on the sidelines or in the stands during the game, and visiting, and judging from a lot of the recruits that were there in person and talking about their experiences, it made them want to suit up and go out there and play, just because it was 2 heavyweights out there going blow to blow. And what a great game it really was. And unfortunately Nebraska came out again on the losing side of it. And you know what, you got to get ready to go again this week and head to Minneapolis and go take on a Minnesota team that all of a sudden you kind of have a rivalry with that kind of creeped out of nowhere. And Nebraska's got they got something to prove against the Minnesota team that's had their number for the last couple of years.
It was kind of odd to listen to Scott Frost after the game, because I alluded to one comment right at the start of the show here, because some of it sounded very, very hopeful, and some of it sounded kind of mixed with obviously disappointment. You work that hard, and you see your team grow that much and develop and get better and play toe to toe. Really, there was no way to separate those two teams. Somebody's got to win the game, but there was no way to say, oh, definitely that team's better or that team's better. Who knows? They could play 10 times and split them 5-5. Yeah. But like I said off the top, he said, I know it's going to happen. I just know it's going to happen. I thought this was going to be the night, but it didn't happen. And then on the other hand, I heard him say something like, there's just something always that pops up on us that kind of takes us down and is our undoing.
The biggest thing I take away from it is that he actually said that he had the most fun coaching a football game that he has ever had, no matter where he's been at. And he was very upbeat and extremely proud of his guys. And the thing that I kind of take away from it, it's kind of strange that I think a lot of the coaches take these losses hard. Obviously, us in the media take it extremely hard. The fans do. But then when you talk to the players, my God, these guys aren't fazed by it because they know they're good. And, they know they're so close. And they expected to win, and they still think they're the better team. We sit down with several of them on Sunday. I mean, not even 24 hours after the game, and they're joking around and just extremely positive and a very confident football team. So yeah, I mean, and I think Scott Frost knows that, and that's the way he's groomed these guys. And There's just it seems like there's just that one little hurdle that they just can't get past and put it all together. And you don't want to point blame, but there was a lot of bad calls in that game by the officials. And I mean, even Jim Harbaugh in his post game comments couldn't stop complaining about the officiating, which was very strange. And he was all over the officials. Seriously, up and down the field, every play. He would go from one official to the next official. Um, so it was just it was cool to see. It was cool to see those guys kind of joust back and forth, and you saw just a first half, just a battle, a defensive battle, and if Nebraska, heck, if they score, even if they kick a field goal on their opening drive and go up 3-0, maybe this is a different game. But I don't disagree with going for it there, and but then you see the adjustments that Coach Frost made at halftime, and all of a sudden Nebraska comes out in the third quarter and 3 touchdowns and over 200 yards of offense, and that game just got going at the right time for Nebraska, and just a few bad bounces here and there, and they lose 32-29.
Our first comment coming in tonight, actually from a Gopher fan, and not just a Gopher fan, not just a Gopher fan, actually Gopher fan, who says, wow, we're going to have coverage on Minnesota. Yes. Got Daniel House from Gophers Guru. He's going to join us for the last 15 or 20 minutes to discuss the matchup against Nebraska. Dan, appreciate you letting everyone know to hit the thumbs up and subscribe right here at the Voice of College Football.
It's done there, Mark. You're
Oh, it's done.
Yeah.
Thank you, Greg. This is me not having my contacts or my glasses on. Don, thank you so much for that. Moonbot, unleash the Yantee again.
Yeah, it's kind of funny how Nebraska rolls with their running backs, and Jaquez had a few chances in there. We all wanted to see him in there more, maybe, but with more of a power attack. But Nebraska really wasn't doing much against Michigan's defense running the ball. And Ramir Johnson had, he had some over 100 yards receiving in that game, so they were still getting production out of the backfield. But every game's different for Nebraska. I think they're always trying to throw a different wrinkle on there, and that running back room is a rotating thing that I think you're going to see that throughout the year, and Jaquez will definitely get some more opportunities, here moving forward.
All right, Moonbot's here, Alan's here. Appreciate you guys being here as always, and of course, wasn't just that the game went down to the wire. It's in the manner that it did. So Nebraska gets down 13-0. It possibly could have been worse than that. And when a team hasn't had much success, it's often the case that they feel a bit down and figure, here we go again. We're not going to be able to win this one. But here's a team that came out in the third quarter and they controlled the game and outplayed Michigan in the second half.
Yeah, they really did. They really did. I mean, it was, and even that first half didn't seem like Nebraska was in any kind of trouble because the defense was standing up when they needed to, and forcing Michigan to kick field goals, and it was such a tight game back and forth, and either team could have just a big play here or there was going to maybe open things up, but they played each other so tight to the vest, and it just comes down to a few of those mistakes that we see that Adrian Martinez gets called for a fumble on a play that looks like he should have been it should have been blown dead, and if they go and score there, maybe that game's over right there, then and there, and I don't know. And then, it's hard just to keep harping on these little things, but you just got to put that aside, and, you got to go take on a Minnesota team. That's what they're concentrating on right now. A team that, is kind of hitting their stride right now as well, and is coming off of a bye week and is going to definitely have some wrinkles in there that they're going to throw some stuff at Nebraska that they haven't seen yet. Yeah, you just got to move forward, and you still got plenty. You still got 5 ball games that to prove yourself. So the season's not over.
I don't know if it's a Minnesota team that's catching its stride or it's on the top part of that roller coaster, because it just seems like they keep going up one game, down the next game, up the next game, down the next game. They went out to
too. Yeah.
They went out to Colorado a few weeks ago, several weeks ago now, and Colorado was coming off taking Texas A&M to the wire, and Minnesota just went out there and bloodied them 30-0, gave up 60 yards of total offense in that game. 60 yards in a football game. Then they come back riding high off that win, and they're a 32-point favorite, and they lose to Bowling Green. And then they step back into Big Ten play, and they take on Purdue. They're on the road. They're a slight underdog, and they get the win. So they have had the bye week, and they've picked up a key Western Division win against Purdue the last time out. They've had some interesting occurrences in terms of their top personnel. We'll get more into that, obviously, when we got Daniel House coming on with Gophers Guru, but they're down to their third-string running back.
Yeah.
Even though they had 2 of the best going, Mo Ibrahim, and now Trey Potts has gone down after 3 well over 100-yard games. Unfortunately, he is pretty seriously injured with an undisclosed situation.
Well, then, you got, also, Nebraska loses Teddy Prohaska as well. He's done for the year, who had just stepped in, the true freshman offensive tackle who just stepped in and was playing very well. So, Nebraska's dealing with that kind of stuff too. So, and, I want, like I was saying earlier about the confidence of this team. I think that you've just seen them play, like we always have to say, you get rid of that Illinois game. The last 5 games that Nebraska has played are arguably the best 5 games that they've played under Scott Frost since he's been here. And you see how things are starting to fit together, and sooner or later it's gonna happen. Like you said, like you kind of opened the show with that. It is gonna happen. You can see it. It is building up to that point, and I wouldn't be surprised if you see Nebraska unleash something special this Saturday because I think that they're sick and tired of this, and I think it's key that they get ahead early. If they go down, if they get behind Minnesota, it's going to be tough for them. But I think if they can come out of the gate and take a lead and play with the lead, I think you'll see a defense that's going to just shut down Minnesota, and I don't want to say it would be an easy day, but hoping that it's going to be an easy day. We'll just say that. But then again, also you got to think about Nebraska's played 3 straight night games, and now you're switching them back to an 11 a.m. kickoff too. So hopefully they're ready to go bright and early in the morning after 3 weeks in a row of sitting around all day waiting to play.
Got our guy Desmond here. That's our Michigan post-game guy who sat down with Greg and I last week to talk Michigan, Nebraska. Des is saying that, Greg, you were spot on with your prediction of Nebraska. That's a tough team. And now we've got...
appreciate that, Desmond.
Got my Dylan Leslie. After seeing some positive momentum at this point in the season, you believe we will see some changes with assistant coaches after the season?
That's hard to say here nor there. I mean,
always is.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about that earlier when things were struggling. That Greg Austin was probably that guy that would probably be that first guy on the chopping block if there were to be changes made. But that was a couple of weeks ago, and you've seen Nebraska's offense be much more productive since we were having this conversation before. And the way these guys are playing, I don't see anybody. I don't see having the need to get rid of anybody. Maybe the one thing that has kind of hurt Coach Frost is that they have just never hired that one special teams coordinator. It's always been like a shared job for Coach Frost, and maybe that's been a little bit of a bugaboo. I don't know, but obviously special teams have been a huge issue here, and at least here for the last couple of games, it's been cleaned up. But if there is a change to be made, I would think it would be bringing in a special teams guy, a full-time special teams guy. But then I don't know where you go with the staff, because Coach Frost likes to the one kind of difference that he has in his coaching staff is that he actually has an inside linebackers coach and an outside linebackers coach. So that kind of takes up your other full-time coaching position right there. And I don't see Barrett Ruud going anywhere anytime soon. And, Coach Mike Dawson is a guy that left already once for the NFL and is back. So I don't, it's a pretty tight group of guys. It really is. And, I can tell you one thing for sure, that Coach Frost would hate to have to fire any of his guys. Just like any boss would, I'm sure.
Got Kyle Z joining us. Just shooting straight here. Can Nebraska upset Ohio State?
I think absolutely they can. I mean, the way they're playing, I think they could knock off anybody right now. Doesn't matter who would be that nameless, faceless opponent, like they like to say. But they're playing at a high level right now, and any given Saturday, they could beat anybody.
See, that's the thing. When
I wouldn't have said
you're
that.
looking at a question like that.
2 or 3 years, the last 2 or 3 years, I wouldn't say that. No way I would say that. It looked like an idiot. But I believe in these guys. They believe in them, and we see the way they're playing. They're playing at a super high level right now.
And the game's in Lincoln, correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
Game's in Lincoln. Do I think Ohio State's a better team?
Sure.
Absolutely, I do. But to Greg's point, look at these games that they're playing against top 10 teams. They're within one score, and we just saw Alabama lose to Texas A&M Saturday night.
Right. Yeah.
That's going to be a really good game. That is shaping up to be a really good one.
I think every game on Nebraska's schedule is going to be a good game. I mean, I think we've seen that since week 0. Every one of these games is, well, okay, we'll say the Fordham game. I guess we could drop that one out. Maybe Buffalo too, but all those other games have been really good games.
So Kyle is asking about the shuffling that's going to be required along the offensive line now.
Bryce Benhart steps back into his role that he got moved out of. So yeah, basically, Bryce is already, he was a starter, and hopefully he's cleaned up some of those mistakes. So we'll see. We'll see if the offensive line can keep playing clean like they have the last couple of games, and eliminating those false start penalties. Bryce is a very talented guy who's a top 60 recruit in the country. So it's not like he's not chopped onion or anything like that. And you still got Nuri Newellen that they moved in there. He's playing at a high level as well. So yeah, I mean, all eyes are on Bryce Benhart, and if you don't hear anybody mention his name on Saturday, that means that he did a hell of a job.
Folks, we are here talking Nebraska football, and Greg's doing one hell of a job, as he always does, in our 38th edition. Here talking Huskers with you. So you bring your comments and questions, and we run through them. Greg has to answer all of them. I only answer the ones that I feel like answering. So he gets the tough job. But bring some folks in here. And if you enjoy the conversation, which you do because you keep coming back, then let other people know that are Nebraska fans. Obviously, the Nebraska fans, you got to get them in here every Tuesday at 7 o'clock Central, but also just college football fans. Get them in here and have them enjoy the show as well. So, Moonbot with a very technical football question here. Greg, please answer my question. Why can't we get good audio of the reporters asking questions during the press conference?
That's basically why I quit reading comments on our video posts. Yeah, I mean the press conferences they're not these are not made for TV events. I wish people would kind of figure that out. There are no microphones on the reporters asking the questions. Everybody's cameras are plugged into a malt box that is at the microphone, at the podium. So yeah, it's nothing that we can do. We can't send a person around with a microphone to ask questions and stuff like they do at the White House or anywhere else. That's just the way these things are set up. It's a construction area after practice going on. I mean, you can probably hear in the background all the construction noises going on and the vehicles backing up with the beeping noises and the jackhammers and stuff because there's a huge construction project going on right behind where we're doing all these press conferences at. So hang in there, everybody. When they have the new facilities finished, we will have a dedicated media room, and I can guarantee you will probably be able to hear the questions then. Let's hope. We'll keep our fingers crossed.
So talk about hearing. How was your hearing tested on Saturday night? So that atmosphere on Saturday night, when was the last time it felt that electric in that stadium?
Two times that I can recall that came close to that. Maybe three, but like for whole games, that Miami game we talked about. I think we talked about that last week. But when they beat Michigan State, when Brandon Riley had a game-winning touchdown catch, it was pretty darn loud then, but not for whole sustained time. And then I would say like when they had the Hail Mary Jordan Westerkamp catch against Northwestern, it got pretty crazy there at the end of the game. But for a whole game, this I don't think it could be matched. I mean, I was even asking players on Sunday that I don't know how Michigan did it because running their offense because I couldn't even hear the person standing next to me in the end zone. I couldn't even hear what you're saying. I mean, it was so loud. And I mean, credit Michigan for being able to actually even to run plays. It was just that nuts down there. And oh man, like I said, the goosebumps came back and they were there like the whole game, especially. And then, the end of the third quarter, switch to the fourth quarter when they're doing the AC/DC Thunderstruck and they turn the lights out with the red out. It's just an amazing thing with the pyrotechnics going on and everybody holding their cell phones up with the flashlights on. It's like a concert. It's like an AC/DC concert almost. But so yeah, it's hard to even think of that kind of atmosphere for a night game, especially. It was just amazing.
Switching gears, this came to mind. We're 2 months away from National Signing Day. So it's mid-October, whatever that date is in December. It's a Wednesday. It's around the 15th to 20th. So we're only about 2 months away. How is this class looking at this point?
Well, it's still kind of stuck on 8 commitments right now. In a class where they're only taking 13. So they're being extremely selective right now, and quite frankly, they've been super busy. And then with a bye week coming up next week, the coaches will be out on the road recruiting, and things right now have been more of a focus on the 2023 and 2024 classes, quite frankly, because like I just mentioned, this class is kind of a washout. As far as only taking 13 guys, I think you're looking more adding guys to the transfer portal and some JUCO add-ons maybe down the road. But you're not don't look for Nebraska to be anywhere near a top 25 recruiting rankings team this year just because of the numbers. They're just not going to allow it. So I think right now is they've been doing their evaluations. They've been sending out offers to guys that they need, and there's just key positions that they're looking to fill right now. And they're not at all worried about it, they feel very comfortable where they're at right now. But it's just not going to be a big splash of a year in recruiting for Nebraska right now, just because you do have just a log jam of guys on the roster right now.
So, Dan, I'm not really understanding here, so we may have miscommunicated, but he says, last week you said, Mark, that you would be extremely surprised, in quotes, if Nebraska was anywhere close to Michigan during the fourth quarter. So were you extremely surprised when Nebraska was close in the fourth quarter? You would have to pull that clip from last week, but I'm almost positive I said I would be extremely surprised if they were not close in the fourth quarter, because I took Nebraska and the points, and it was only about 3.5 or 4 points. So I anticipated an extremely close game.
Yeah,
I anticipated a close one, and we got a close one, and it was a great one. Other than Nebraska coming up short.
Michigan fans liked it.
Yes. I say that with our Husker fans here. We've got a Texas Tech fan who is reliving 2004.
Yeah, that was pretty ugly.
Now,
thank God that was the year I moved to Nashville, so I wasn't even in Lincoln in 2004.
I remember that score just because how do you not remember that score, especially when it's not Nebraska doing that to another team in the Big 12? But that's only a couple years after they were spending time in the top 5 in the country.
Right, but that was, it was such a bizarre time because it was basically the end of the Frank Solich era. And I remember, for the first time in my life, I would see, Nebraska losing at home to like Kansas State. Getting bludgeoned by Kansas State. This wasn't even 2004 yet. And seeing the Memorial Stadium basically empty at the end of the third quarter. I never thought I would ever see that in my life. And that's just kind of the way things kind of went there back there in kind of the years of the end of the Frank Solich era that, I don't know. That's for the historians to kind of think about what happened, what went wrong there. But that Texas Tech, that was something that you never ever imagined happened in Nebraska, because everybody grew up watching Nebraska beat teams like Minnesota 70-10. So yeah, that was just something hard to swallow for anybody that followed Nebraska.
Yeah, they had, of course, gone to the national championship game at the Rose Bowl against Miami in 2001. And then the 2002 team, the way that 2001 team performed down the stretch against Colorado and in the championship game was kind of a precursor to going 7-7 the next year.
Yeah.
That team lost to Ole Miss. I remember that game, Eli Manning, in the Independence Bowl. And then the next year they bounced back to 10-3, beat Michigan State in the Alamo Bowl. And then our guy here is referring to the 2004 season and a 5-6 campaign and 70-10, against Texas Tech that particular year. All right, let's get back to 2021. We know what the answer is to this. Although I got to say, since you made your prediction that if correct me if I'm wrong, Nebraska would beat Wisconsin, Iowa to finish the season. Obviously, that was in the preseason, and Iowa's showing us something.
Yeah, Iowa's definitely one of the. Obviously, after beating Penn State, you have to admit Iowa must be one of the top teams in the country, and they're playing at a really high level right now. But do I think Nebraska can upset them? Sure, they can. The game's here again. It's another home game, and Nebraska playing the way they're playing, and again playing a team that's had their number. This is Nebraska, a proud group of guys that they want to beat Iowa, especially these seniors that are going out. These it's funny to say these 6-year seniors that they're hungry to beat teams like Iowa and Wisconsin and Minnesota right now. And like we just said, Nebraska is playing at a level where they could beat anybody on any given Saturday right now. And I know we skipped over a question there about Adrian Martinez coming back, and it's kind of funny because I was thinking about that yesterday during the Monday press conference because he'd been asked the question about the pressure and kind of being that guy, being the scapegoat basically, and is it worth it? And Adrian's, like we've mentioned a lot of times, he's such a mature guy, and he's like, He's like, yeah, it is worth it, and I think he really likes what he's doing, and the question is, I mean, does he want to put up with this again? Being the guy that takes the blame week in and week out, and just reading his face and the way he answers questions and stuff like that, I don't think he's fazed by it one way or the other, and I think he's going to make a decision that's best for him, and that's going to depend on these last 5 games of the year and hopefully a 6th game of the year, and how he can finish out the season, and if he does well and is projected, as an NFL draft pick guy, then I think he moves on, or if he's not projected as an NFL guy and he still believes that he has that kind of talent, then he comes back and does it again next year, and hopefully improves his stock status. So who knows right now, and he doesn't know right now. I mean, because he's 100% fixed on Minnesota right now, and as he should be. And he's a proud leader of this team, and I know every single player on that team believes in him and believes in his ability, and they all think that he is the right guy to lead them.
Nebraska's 3-4, 7 games down, 5 to go. They got to go 3-2 to make a bowl game. And so our guy Fax is asking the odds to make it to 6-6. You think better than that?
Well, yeah, I mean, it starts this Saturday, okay? You've got to come away from Minnesota with a win. Then you've got to beat Purdue. I think it's key that this team has got to be 5-4 going into those final 3 games of the season, which we know is murderer's row when it comes to Nebraska playing Ohio State, Wisconsin, and Iowa. So if you're not 5-4 going into those final 3 games, then I don't think you end up 6-6. I really don't, because something has drastically gone wrong if you're not beating teams that you should beat. And I'm not trying to take anything away from Minnesota or anything away from Purdue, but I think most of us can agree that Nebraska is a better team than both of those teams. Maybe not record-wise, but I think talent-wise, you see that on the field. So I think it's key right now, and I think they do beat the 2 teams we're talking about. And Wisconsin right now is we don't really know what kind of a Wisconsin team we're going to see, because they're not a typical Wisconsin team that we're used to seeing right now. So just to be, if you're playing the odds, those are your 3 wins right there that you're needing. And then maybe you upset Ohio State or Iowa, which you both have them both at home. So I like those chances. Okay. I like the chances to make a bowl game with what they have remaining on their schedule.
Yeah, when it's all said and done, hopefully they can make a bowl game, of course, but especially since the Illinois game was what it was. It was played fair and square. It counts, but that may turn out to be the oddest and most deceiving score of the entire season in the Big Ten.
Yeah, probably is.
If those 2 teams got back together, based on what Illinois shown us. Yeah.
I think it's a totally different ballgame if they're playing today. I mean, the way Nebraska is playing, It's night and day than what that team that you saw out there in week 0. Not even close.
Star Trek Elysium. Mark, Ohio State aside. Go. I'll put them aside, but I'm going to include them after I put them aside because you asked me to. Do you think Nebraska will win out? First of all, I'll go on record as saying I believe Ohio State's the best team on the schedule the rest of the way. I think Iowa's playing the best, and I think Iowa has had the best season to date, but I still believe in Ohio State talent. So I think Ohio State's the best team on the schedule the rest of the way, but Ohio State and Iowa are both tremendous teams, legitimate top 5 to 10 teams in the country. But I do believe that Nebraska has, and I'm not talking about a puncher's chance. I think that they have a legitimate chance to beat Ohio State, whatever that is, 30%. I don't know, something in that range in my estimation. Is that some kind of mathematical formula? No, I'm just guesstimating that I would give Nebraska about a 30% chance of winning that game. Now, I do believe that I'm right there with Greg on the next 2 games being almost must wins.
You don't want to have to look back at one of these 2 games and say that's what cost you making a bowl game. Just put it that way.
Yeah, they're better than these 2 teams. I don't think they're substantially better, but I think they're better. Mm-hmm. And I think Purdue and Minnesota are capable teams. They're decent teams. They're bowl teams as well. Probably fringe bowl teams. They're going to be right on the cusp too. Purdue and Minnesota are right now 3-2. They're probably going to be fighting for a bowl near the end of the year. So they're those type teams as well. Wisconsin's got to find an offense. They've not generated offense. Nebraska's playing better football than Wisconsin right now. And again, Iowa and Ohio State. So they basically need to beat, they could beat, even if they lose to Iowa and Ohio State, go 3-2 and make it. But can they win out? Sure, they can win out.
I'll put it this way: that I think we've mentioned it before, but this team believes that they can beat Ohio State. They believe that. They have not believed that for several years. I mean, going back before Scott Frost was even here. I don't think I've seen a Nebraska team believe that they were good enough to beat Ohio State since Bo Pelini was the head coach. So I think that's a big, big difference with what you see, and that's what you've been seeing on the field, that these guys believe in themselves, and they believe that they're good. And I think good things are going to happen to them. When you keep thinking that way, good things are going to happen to you. Sooner or later. You can't keep losing in this fashion. It's just cruel.
It is rough. It is rough. 0-9, I believe, Scott Frost against ranked teams, and then also the one-score losses lead the country. Since he stepped on campus, Nebraska is the most one-score losses of anybody in the country. And it reminds me of a question that I would have liked to have asked Josh Banderas when he was on the show, because he mentioned, when I asked him the question, who is the best team that you've been on a field with, he said 2016 Ohio State. Yeah. And I would have liked to have asked him if he believed they were going to win that game when he stepped on the field.
Well, we'll have to wait until after the season because he's a little bit busy on that Oregon State staff right now. So he actually was back in town this Saturday. I did see him on the sidelines Saturday.
Nice.
So. But yeah, he's working on his own career right now. But he'll be back. Off season he'll be back around. So we'll get him back on our airwaves.
Nice. And that Oregon State team may make a bowl game. They are now 4-2.
Yeah.
But all eyes on Saturday night. We've got Minnesota taking on, or I should say, 11 a.m. local time on Saturday, with Minnesota hosting Nebraska. And we got Daniel House going to join the conversation. You can join Daniel on Gophers Guru. Joins us on a regular basis to break down the Gophers. Hey, Daniel.
Mark, what's going on? Coming off the bye week here. We're ready for some football up here in Minnesota.
There you go. Hey, Daniel, we got this is our Nebraska show, and this is the guy that makes it happen right here, Greg Peterson from Husker Online on Rivals.
Hey, Daniel. Nice to meet you, buddy.
Hey, nice to meet you.
Hope you enjoyed that bye week. We're waiting for ours next week.
Yeah, Nebraska's been through the gauntlet. I mean, 3 night games, a really physical matchup against Michigan. I'm just really fascinated to see how they respond after a game like that.
Yeah, it'll be 8 straight weeks going for Nebraska, and I think you can't ask for a better time for a bye week coming up, and they actually get 2 of them here in their last 5 weeks. So we're looking forward to it.
I think I heard Scott Frost actually address that by saying, I just let my players know, hey, if you aspire to play in the NFL, then this is what you have to go through.
Oh, yeah.
That's exactly it. It's a grind every single week, and now going on the road to Minnesota, it's a huge game for both teams.
Yep.
Absolutely, Daniel. So we've got you here, of course, to break down Minnesota football, and then we'll get into some matchups. So, of course, the big news coming out of the Purdue game, unfortunately, is Trey Potts. And he had just 3 amazing games in relief of Mohammed Ibrahim, and ripped off roughly 150 yards in those 3 games. I believe I saw a stat where he was 12th in the nation in rushing yards per game. I know that you don't know anything about the severity of the injury or what the injury is, because PJ Fleck addressed that and is appropriate. That is up for the family and the individual to disclose to the public if they care to. But just in regards to the impact, because we've got possibly the best running back in the Big Ten. He goes down in week 1. He's tearing through Ohio State at that point. We know what he's capable of. Scored 15 touchdowns in a half a season last year. And now Trey Potts, who was just getting into his groove, ripping off 100-yard games, he goes down. What does that featured back position look like now?
Well, first off, thankfully, Trey's okay. He was in the hospital for 6 days, got out on last Friday, is back in Minnesota doing well. PJ Fleck said yesterday. So Minnesota really just trying to support Trey right now as he battles back. And right now, I don't really know a lot about long-term, but he's out for the rest of the season, like you said. So now with Mohammed Ibrahim out for the season with the injury he had against Ohio State right at the start of the season, now with Trey going down, Bucky Irving, true freshman, will be taking over the running back duties. And he doesn't have a lot of experience, but staff is really excited about his potential. I've talked to a few people about just the night scrimmages that they do on Sunday. And he popped off this run where he broke like 5 tackles and redirected across the field. And that was the moment where they said, okay, this guy needs some playing time now. And so he got some action against Colorado and really flashed. He's shifty back, really elusive, explosive, hitting the hole, and he's good as a receiver. So he'll step into that. And then the number 2 back after that is Kai Thomas, one of the top players in Kansas a couple of recruiting cycles ago. And he's more of the physical back, will be the guy between the tackles to complement Bucky Irving. And then Bryce Williams, who's played a lot of football for Minnesota before, can come in and provide a veteran presence. Cam Wiley's another option, but Minnesota's definitely depleted at running back. But there's been a lot of things with this offense. Chris Ottman-Bell got hurt right before the season started, and he's missed time throughout the year battling back from that injury. Dalen Wright had a loved one pass away, and he was away from the team for a while, so now he's back. But Minnesota's been trying to navigate people going in and out offensively, and they've had some struggles. They're just trying to figure out how to get the rhythm going offensively, because it feels like things are going relatively well in defense. They're getting better every week. Special teams wise, they're number 12 right now in the nation in field position margin. And Mark Crawford was special teams player of the week after the Purdue matchup. So everything seems to be going pretty well in those areas. It's just figuring out this offense for Minnesota right now.
Yeah, so I'm going to hit you with one thing, and then I'll let you and Greg just mix it up, and you guys can talk matchups between the Huskers and the Gophers. You mentioned you gave us a scan of the offense there, but it starts, of course, with Tanner Morgan, who's got as much or more experience than anybody in the Big Ten. He's only thrown, I believe, 4 touchdowns, 2 picks this year. He's just barely over 50% passing, around 52. We got accustomed to and expected the kind of production he gave everyone 2 years ago with 30 touchdown passes and only 7 picks. So how how would you evaluate his play versus the supporting cast and how they factored or impacted those numbers?
It's been really interesting because the passing game hasn't had a lot of volume. Minnesota's been a heavy rushing team. You look at early downs, for example, they're a 70+% rushing team on first and second down, which they haven't been able to run the ball efficiently in those situations either. So that has put the offense in less favorable positions. Tanner Morgan's been behind the sticks. And you look at the Bowling Green game, for example, the pass rush of Bowling Green was just getting there all day long. He was pressured on 45.5% of his dropbacks. So it's been something every single game, whether it's Tanner maybe missing a couple throws he'd like to have back or drops, and then the passing game just not being able to adjust. I believe that Minnesota, out of the bye week, they will be looking at a lot of different tendencies, maybe adjusting and becoming more balanced on early downs. They need some high percentage throws in the offense because they just cannot find a rhythm in the passing game. And that's something that Minnesota probably was working on during the bye week. And another tendency that I found is they used 12 personnel at 2 tight end sets in 2019 and 2020. It was about a third of their total snaps last year. They're only using it at about a 12% clip right now. And I feel like that is an opportunity. They've been relying upon heavy packages throughout the season. Maybe they scale that back and try to spread things out and get the ball in space to their playmakers. But, Curtis Dunlap today, we found out, offensive lineman, right guard, entering the transfer portal. He was splitting time with Blaze Andries at right guard, and his total snap share was higher because he was in on the heavy personnel packages. He hadn't played very well early in the season, so Blaze will get the starting reps moving forward, and then Axel Rushmeyer and Carter Shaw will be the first players off the bench, and Axel will probably be the 6th offensive lineman if Minnesota uses that package. So that's something to monitor, that Curtis Dunlap hit the transfer portal today.
Yeah, Greg, anything for Daniel in regards to just if you guys want to start mixing it up on any matchup questions you got?
Well, what came to my mind was it was kind of funny when we were talking about, Minnesota's running back situation, and Eric Shenander, Nebraska's defensive coordinator, was asked about that today. And, it jumps out to me what he says, this, we don't know about this guy. He might be the best running back in the Big Ten. So they have to be ready for that. Just like everybody, it's next man up mentality. You get your chance, you're going to get in there and you're going to take the opportunity and make the most of it. So, both teams have had their share of injury problems. So, when Daniel's talking about, obviously Minnesota's, a heavy run team, and, they've found a lot of success against Nebraska with the run game.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that in the past, PJ Flex, they've schemed Nebraska. They've targeted Nebraska's linebackers and really exploited Nebraska's linebackers in previous years, which now all of a sudden is a strength of Nebraska's defense. So I'm kind of curious to see what kind of wrinkles that Minnesota has, in mind, because obviously they're going to come up with something, because most teams that have played Nebraska now are not even allowing Nebraska's pass rush to develop. They're getting rid of the ball so quickly. Michigan came with a few wrinkles last week where Jim Harbaugh all of a sudden was including his tight end in little crossing patterns and stuff that kind of took Nebraska off guard. And, that was a very effective weapon that they used against Nebraska last Saturday. So, I don't know. My question, I guess, is what kind of wrinkles do you see, PJ Fleck coming up with on Saturday to, keep Nebraska guessing again?
It's super interesting that you mentioned that the rushing success that Minnesota's had against Nebraska. And you look at the past, the outside zone has been the area that they've tried to exploit, the linebackers, like you said, and the front four, getting them moving sideline to sideline. I still think that's something that will be a heavy part of the scheme. Minnesota has dashed in motion a lot to try to displace defenders. And maybe the play action game gets going. I think you got to get the ball out in space more frequently with this offense to try to find an early down rhythm. That's been the biggest problem. This offense, every time they look like they're going to have a rhythm, it just is plagued by a drop or missed throw, something like that. The thing that I'm watching in this game matchup wise is Teddy Prohaska being out, and you shift and Turner Cochran over to left tackle. You got Bryce Benhart at right tackle. Boye Mafe had a great game against Benhart last year. Sack, multiple pressures, forced fumble, huge game. Mafe's a really good player. In Minnesota, you look at what the bread and butter of that defense has been this year. It's been inside interior push from their defensive tackles. Niles Pinckney, D'Angelo Carter's playing at an all Big Ten level right now, one of the better defensive tackles in the entire conference. And then you look at Thomas Rush and Boye Mafe, both creating a lot of pressure from the edge spots. That's the matchup that I'm watching the most, because Corcoran's given up a team-high 33 pressures. Benhart's given up 24. Nebraska's pass blocking efficiency ratings have been pretty low. So, that is the one thing that I'm watching for in this game specifically. Does Minnesota's pass rush have a lot of success against Nebraska's offense? And I think it starts by, I really like the way Nebraska runs their offense right now. Misdirection, option looks, embedded within the offensive system. You have that split zone option, you got the split option, you got a mix of design QB runs in there and zone reads, and then they do a really good job of mixing and pairing that up with the play action and motioning players. And I love that arc release down in the goal line there to set up the touchdown for Martinez near the end of the game. Like, they do a really good job of using motion. And that's very interesting to me, because I've looked at the trends in college football this year. Motion is up in college football. And Nebraska does a great job of using that to their advantage and displacing defenders. So Minnesota's eye discipline is key. I think Minnesota, if they're approaching this game, is like, okay, you got to be able to stop Nebraska on first and second down. You can't allow too many explosive plays and get them behind the sticks. Minnesota, they have the fifth best opponent passing play success rate on passing down. So that's 2nd and 8+. That's 3rd and 5+. They've done a really good job of limiting opponent success when teams have been behind the stick. So that's something that I'm watching as well.
Yeah.
So
go ahead, Mark.
Go ahead, Greg.
Well, no, I was wondering too. I mean, it's kind of I mentioned a little something earlier that this Minnesota-Nebraska matchup, in my mind, is starting to turn into a little bit of a rivalry now, especially after, since PJ Fleck got to Minnesota and kind of reinvigorated things. And I think Nebraska, last couple of years getting beat up by Minnesota has really gotten under their skin a little bit. And dare I say that Nebraska may be thinking of Minnesota more of a rival than maybe Iowa nowadays. So I was just kind of wondering what Minnesota thinks of Nebraska.
Wow. So Nebraska fans would consider that a bigger rivalry than Iowa right now. That's how you would say the fan base is?
Well, I'm thinking the team, not the fan base.
Okay, team, not the fan base. I'm like, holy cow, that's a big deal right there.
Oh no, I think the team is they want to beat Minnesota more than I have ever seen them, and think of Minnesota more of a peer than as like an easy win that they might think of, in years past.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think Minnesota has had a lot of success against Nebraska, and it's probably more Nebraska just having a chip on its shoulder, trying to, relinquish some of those wins that Minnesota had in dominating fashion. And, a lot of those games, you look at last year, Minnesota being down like 30 players going into Nebraska and winning last year in the way that they did. And, that type of a game.
Nobody gave them any kind of a chance to win last year.
Yeah. And so I do see it with the fans too. It's like the Frost versus Fleck too, because I feel like the fan base and the coaches, they just kind of collide with their personality types because there's two stark contrasts.
Right.
So there's definitely that rivalry to it. And I just feel like fans in Minnesota and Nebraska, they always seem to have a good time. Like it's a good fan base rivalry, I'd say. It's not at the level of Iowa and Wisconsin for Minnesota, but it's become a really good rivalry in the West because, you know, everybody looks forward to the game and loves having Nebraska. I think people enjoy, you know, the way that, you know, Minnesota has played against Nebraska. Now, if Nebraska starts winning some games here, then it becomes a rivalry the other way too.
And I think it kind of goes back, if you look at that first Big Ten media days when Scott Frost was first Nebraska's coach, and PJ Fleck was getting a bunch of publicity right then at that time. And I think that there was a little spark in between those two coaches right there, with a little bit of, hey, they should be talking about me, not you right now. So then I think also I want to know what kind of a crowd are you expecting? I mean, we're thinking that there's going to be quite a few Nebraska fans traveling up to Minneapolis. Are you expecting the Minnesota crowd to show up, or are they kind of on the fence about attending the game?
I think fans will show up for this game. You know, start of the Big Ten, there's been a lot of ups and downs this year. PJ Fleck said it. This is like one of the years where he's never coached a team where it's been up and down, the spectrums of things that they had go on. And it's been a weird year, but the students have really showed up for games this year. There's a lot of interest in Minnesota football with the students, and it's been 11 a.m. game early on every single week. Another 11 a.m. game, but the students have done a nice job of showing up, and fans, that they want to see what happens out of the bye week here. Big Ten play beginning, nice matchup against Nebraska here, and want to see if Minnesota makes some adjustments, because in the past you look back at Minnesota and you go, okay, PJ Fleck and his staff, they're pretty vanilla with the non-conference scheming. They go in, they do what they need to do, they run the ball, they try to smash them all, play physical. Got burned against Bowling Green, taken down to the wire against Miami of Ohio. Like, there is always, as someone who covers this team, is like, there is never a game where you're like, okay, non-conference, Minnesota's just going to come out and do what they need to do. It seems like all those games are interesting. Even in 2019, I mean, the Georgia Southern game, Minnesota had to convert that long third down and go on a big drive, and then the drama in the Fresno State game, like, Minnesota, they will have some wrinkles in this game. They're coming out of a bye week. They've saved a lot of stuff. Does the offense open up with the running backs being out, with Mo and Trey being unavailable now for the rest of the season? Minnesota has to adapt its offense. They got to find some early down rhythm. They got to be able to get the passing game more involved and suit the scheme to Tanner Morgan's strengths. And Mike Sanford Jr.'s had time to figure this offense out. Hopefully the staff has added some wrinkles that Nebraska won't expect.
Well, Daniel, what you just went through there is something that I mentioned to Greg before we brought you on, was this Minnesota team. My goodness. If Ohio State is a top 5 team in the nation, if they prove to be what they've been in the past, then that's a reasonably good effort at home. It's still a game early to mid fourth quarter. Okay, they play that game against the Buckeyes. They are up, 21-3, 24-3, something in that range at halftime of the next game against Miami of Ohio. And that becomes a nervous situation with a 5 or 6 point win there. Then this Colorado game, the Buffaloes are coming off a game in which they take Texas A&M to the wire, probably should have hung on, won that game. In one of the oddest statistical lines of the season, Minnesota goes in there, holds them to like 63 yards of total offense in a game and wins 30-0. And so I think, my goodness, they were like a 3-point underdog in that game, which confounded me. I was like, okay, this is the easiest money I'm going to win this year. Then they come home and they blow it as a 32-point favorite, but then they're able to correct me if I'm wrong, even though it's technically a comeback in the books. They did come back for the first time in the PJ Fleck era after trailing at halftime to win at Purdue. So it's been a roller coaster ride.
It's been a roller coaster ride. Now everybody's waiting to see what happens with the roller coaster, if it's on that upward trajectory now, if it's going to continue to be a rocky road. But like I said, the defense has improved every single week. The special teams has been really good. They've had a lot of value from there. They've been winning the field position margin. I wrote an article on the website talking about under PJ Fleck, when Minnesota wins the field position margin, it almost always correlates with a win. So Minnesota's been doing good things there. It's just this offense. Some of it is, tendency wise, they've been pretty predictable on early downs, and then the passing game hasn't been able to get going. They've had personnel in and out. With the bye week, do things come together? That's what I think everybody's waiting to see. There are a lot of questions about Minnesota right now, and maybe there'll be some answers over the next couple of weeks, because Nebraska's playing really well right now. But I want to see how they respond coming off of a game that was super physical. There's a lot of guys that got hurt, were down in that game. Emotional game, a lot of energy in that building. Now coming on the road, they've had a gauntlet and a long schedule here with that week 0 and no bye week. We'll see how Nebraska responds, and Minnesota coming off a bye with some wrinkles. I'm very excited to watch this game.
Yeah, me too. And, Nebraska's no stranger to playing on the road. They've been doing that all season already. And I think Nebraska's schedule has really prepared them well, too, to, finish off these last 5 games of the year when, they played back-to-back top 5 teams, basically. And, 3 out of the last 4 against top 20 teams. So, something's got to give here. This is I'm expecting nothing short than a 1-score game. It's kind of Nebraska's trend this year, and I don't see anything different. So, yeah, I think it's going to be another tough physical matchup between 2 teams that want to impose their will on the other team.
It's somewhat odd that just about everyone in the country has played 6 games. We're at the halfway mark for just about everybody in the country. But Nebraska's played 1 more, and Minnesota's played 1 less. So you got a team that's played only 5 games versus another team that's played 7. So, yeah, we were talking bowl eligibility on the Nebraska side with a brutal stretch drive here, but they're playing great football. In terms of Minnesota, what are your prospects? What are your probabilities of them stretching this 3-2 record into 6 wins or more?
Yeah, the next 4 games are key for Minnesota. You got Nebraska at home, you got Maryland at home, on the road at Northwestern and Illinois. If you're 3-4 in that stretch, going into a really difficult portion of the schedule, Iowa, at Indiana, and finishing out with Wisconsin. I think Minnesota should be right in the mix for a bowl game. It just depends on how things go out of the bye week. Like I said, it is really hard to get a read on this team, because I feel like the defense is playing in sync and the special teams is good. It's just like, can the offense find a rhythm and get things going? That's the key. But Wisconsin right now, I mean, their offense is just, I cannot even believe it. Watching Jake Ferguson just get open on a crossing route, and he's waiting for the ball. The DB's got like 4.5 yards of separation on him, and he's putting his hands up in the air, and the ball's still not even there yet. He's able to compress that space. Wisconsin's offense has taken a huge step back. They don't have that dynamic back, and that's definitely changed things for them. So that's a game that I think Minnesota can win at home at the end of the season, and that could be one that propels them maybe to another level, different level of a bowl game.
Yeah, because it appears to me Northwestern and Illinois have to be wins. They just have to be wins for Minnesota.
Yeah.
Nebraska, Maryland, you split those 2, and that's 3 out of 4 in that stretch. Iowa's going to be difficult, of course, on the road. Indiana's not the Indiana we thought they might be. And Wisconsin. It appears as though 3-1 could turn into another win is 4, and you're at 7-5.
Yeah,
7-5 feels realistic for sure.
Bottom line for both Nebraska and Minnesota is they need to beat the teams they're supposed to beat. And then things will take care of themselves. They'll make a bowl game if they do that. So, yeah, and I think Minnesota has a great shot to be at least 7-5, maybe an 8-win team.
And this is a pivotal game for both teams in terms of bowl, because if you get an advantage, if you win this one, you open up the door to a bowl game almost instantly. It's just a massive game for both teams. It set the tone for what's upcoming.
Yep.
All right. Good stuff with Daniel House. You see it right there, gophersguru.com. Please join him. He joins us on a regular basis to break down Minnesota football and has some great perspectives on Minnesota football and analytics surrounding the game. And Daniel, before we let you go, that Vikings drive, the late field goal, does that get them jump started? Does that kick them into gear?
I don't know another team that you don't know what to expect, Mark. You don't know what you're going to get week to week, but man, the offense one week looks like it could be explosive, and then the next week they get behind the sticks and they struggle, and the offensive line can't block anybody. So who knows what will happen? Both teams in town have a lot of similarities in that respect. So whichever one plays a little bit better will get the attention down the stretch.
Hey, this being a Nebraska show and me being a Bears fan, that better be the last Vikings question we ever have.
Oh, shoot. Okay.
Oh, boy.
The only thing I was going to say was not going to be a question. I was just going to comment that Mike Zimmer's been a pretty highly tenured coach in the NFL to stick around for 8 seasons. So I don't know what they're expecting there or at what point people are going to get impatient, but
yeah, this is a big season. This is a big season for Mike Zimmer and everybody in the front office there, because the Wilfs, they want to be a playoff team every year. If the Vikings don't make the playoffs, then things are probably going to change in Minneapolis for sure.
And the Bears got to win, whether that was all Bears or Raiders being distracted.
On that. Yeah, go ahead and do it.
It's a win. It's
a win. 3-2, baby. Okay. We're happy.
There you go.
We'll see what happens with Matt Nagy. I mean, I don't know. That offense, it's just so hard to watch that offense. Everything's so short of the sticks. Everything's in space. Like, the offensive scheme just is so annoying to watch.
Yeah, it is. It is. Thank God that it might be the last year of that.
It might be. We'll see.
Hope he doesn't win too many games and sticks around. That's the problem.
Good stuff. Again, one more time, everyone, Nebraska fans, college football fans, join us back here each and every Tuesday night, 7 o'clock Central Time, 8 o'clock Eastern. Here's the guy that makes it happen for us, Greg Peterson from Husker Online. So again, as always, Greg, appreciate you being here. We always like to get the opponent's media in here as well. So Daniel, we appreciate you accommodating us. And again, you can catch Daniel on gophersguru.com.
And I really do want to thank the schedule makers for making this an 11 a.m. kickoff again, since I will be trying to get home from Reno, Nevada. So I'll probably be driving another 95 miles an hour home from Omaha to Lincoln on the interstate.
Take it easy.
After I land Saturday morning. So
Greg's got recruiting trips on the weekends, so he goes scouts and interviews players, high school players on the weekends. Tries to get back for the Nebraska games. All right, boys. We appreciate it. Great to have both of you as always. Greg, you know that. You make it happen here. So everybody join us back here next Tuesday.